My name is Sander, and I have done more than 300 virtual events in 1.5 years. So here are my tips that I have faced. And this video has been made in collaboration with Finnish Metropolia University Applied Sciences, and it's going to be used as a teaching material. So let's quickly go through the day's agenda. This instructional video is divided into 3 sections. Do your own virtual event, which contains the following topics: what is virtual event, why make a virtual event, and how to choose the right format. And we also go through the importance of the manuscripts and correct scheduling and how to involve participants in different ways. Second main topic is virtual event technical requirements and equipment. Let's first have a look at what can be found in my streaming bag, and let's go through the devices and what devices for which virtual format I would recommend. Then I present the most common error situations and dangers and how they can be corrected quickly. Then we move to my recommendations for platforms and distribution channels. And the last part is a concrete example of how to make your own virtual event from the start. Our last headline is about how to earn and save money with virtual events. We go through some situations where to save money and some ways to earn with virtual events in a nutshell. Pretty interesting, isn't it? So let's go to the first topic. So you're probably wondering, what exactly is this virtual thing that everyone is talking about? In short, it's an event made online. That's what a virtual event is, and basically the function of a virtual event is to allow people to interact in the virtual environment of the web rather than in a physical location. And that separates the live production from the physical event. Like you right now, you're in the other side of the screen, and we are not physically in the same place. Admittedly, this is not a live broadcast, but a pre-filmed instructional video. But whether it's a live event or a pre-filmed one, almost the same principles are true in it as well. The equipment is the same, the lighting is the same, technology is the same, but the platform may just be different. Virtual events and online productions are typically multi-session online events, unlike, for example, online meetings. Of course, they are kind of virtual events as well, but the main rule in a virtual event is that there are a lot of participants and the program has been developed for them and for their needs. So participants are participating in the event for some specific reason. It can be an education, a concert, a yoga class, a lesson, a product launch, marketing event, or anything that can be broadcasted over the internet. And the program and the agenda can be built with one or more performers. And there can also be several of them at the same time, meaning that there can be several virtual rooms or virtual stages, and participants can jump from room to another room according to their own interests. In virtual events, performers are either in the organizer's studio or remotely in their own home or office, and this brings out the great advantage of virtual events. Even all performers can be remote, which means that the venue is not even always needed. In the case of sport broadcasts, for example, the group sports instructor can also do the lesson from their own studio, home, or from the organizer's venue or studio. Virtual events can be paid or free, and as what comes to paying, payment options are like regular online purchases with the direct bank payment links or with debit or credit cards. In short, I would say that virtual events offer significant benefits and scope for everyone, attendees, regardless of where they are in the world, what devices they use, or when they are available, speakers, event organizers, and so on. The future of human to human connection will definitely become increasingly remote, participation centered as the internet and technologies grow more accessible for people. It should also be said that participation is much easier than producing them, and this brings us to the next topic. As already discussed in the previous topic, there are many benefits and advantages to producing virtual events, and let's go through a few basic reasons. Crises and pandemics. Like you remember, in early 2020s, the coronavirus and the ensuing crisis caused enormous chaos and confusion in the field of culture and events around the world, followed by an unexpectedly large wave of event cancellations and delays as the entire cultural sector was moved into the near future. And actually, no one knew more about how long the events were cancelled and people were not allowed to see each other. Virtuality and virtual events emerged as the savior of the cultural sector. Virtual events and the thing with bringing culture online had been heard, but few had practical experience of it. So in the past, virtual events and virtuality were often covertly combined with video conferencing, simple webinars, Snapchat, AR filters, uh, and Michael Jackson's hologram concerts from 2014 might also come to your mind. This pandemic has facilitated and taken virtual opportunities to a whole new reach. During pandemics or crises, everything just goes online, and that's what we have already noticed. The transmission of a message or even a culture does not end no matter what pandemic strikes the planet. Almost everything can be taken online, and that is one of the most significant benefits of making and why to have skill to make things online. It is a big monetary and even reputational benefit. Costs. Mainly because the production of the virtual event doesn't have to be as big as the physical events. You can completely successfully even organize a large virtual event completely alone where all participants and performers are at a distance or remote. Some of the challenges of a physical event are eliminated in virtual productions, and often this is also reflected in money when producing no longer costs that much anymore. And of course, this also depends a lot on the size of the production, and it is very possible that a big virtual event can cost even more than a physical event. Everything is relative, but if you talk about a virtual event that doesn't have a big studio or sets and the performers are remote, then the costs are much lower compared to the physical event. So often, it also makes a financial sense to organize a virtual event, especially if you know how to organize the event by yourself. Accessibility and global reach. One of the biggest benefits that virtual events offer is its accessibility. Participants do not have to travel long distances, flights, car journeys, train journeys, just to physically participate in the event. Almost all the features that a physical event can offer are also available virtually. Sure, nothing replaces a quality face-to-face meeting and discussions, but I would really say that it's just a matter of habit. However, it must be remembered that there are a large proportion of people who specifically want to be physically present, and because of this, they they might avoid all virtual productions and even meetings. And actually, I know many people who are still not used to virtual meetings and are very terrified of them. So I would say that the world will never go completely virtual, for there is certainly not enough demand for this. The thing for the future may be more about how to combine these two things together, virtuality and physicality. Attendee count. The possibilities for a virtual event are huge, and one big possibility is the number of participants. Of course, depending on the platform you use, you may no longer have any restrictions on the number of participants. And also, depending on your platform, a virtual event can accommodate tens and even hundreds of times more people than a physical event. And this is immediately reflected in the event reputation, quality, and of course the cash flow of the event. Saves time. Virtual events take some time to prepare before going live, but they aren't as time consuming as the actual physical ones. Even if you're hosting an event online, you will still need to schedule time for marketing, registration, and promotion. Employees who normally attend your live event can shift their time and focus on boosting sales instead while the live event is underway, as it can help your organizations to save time. Network opportunities. If we compare the possibilities of networking interaction, then virtual events take a fair profit from this. Virtual events offer many different opportunities for networking: chat, one-to-one discussions, group discussions, panel discussions, workshops, roundtable discussions, discussions with performers, or just the opportunity to ask questions during the presentations. There are more opportunities than in a physical event, and often the threshold for networking is lower because within a short period of time, everyone can connect with anyone else. While real events have been made easier to interact with through a number of applications and platforms, virtual event networking possibilities still have less hassle and are more accessible for attendees. Recording and insights. With virtual events, you can easily ask for attendee feedback. You can create surveys, quizzes, and polls to measure and understand feedback to improve the gather meaningful insights from your event right away. And this is one approach to make your attendees feel welcomed and valued for their contributions. I can also say from my own experience that participants get better answers to feedback, surveys, or polls during the event than after, which is the traditional way. And that means that the virtual events make a significant difference here as well. For example, in physical events, if the same idea is to be done, then it must be implemented using different devices such as participants' mobile phones or QR codes. And what comes to recording, it's almost always possible to provide a recording from a virtual event, and this also gives a significant benefit to participants and for the event organizer. This also means that attendees do not necessarily have to be attended live because the recording always allows them to participate in it afterwards. And when it comes to following up with prospects and marketers, recording sessions on a virtual event platform can be really useful. Streaming, live streams, webinars, live webinars, webcasts, hybrid events, virtual events, podcasts, VR and AR events. The list is long and it's quite confusing. And actually, it's for a reason, as the virtual industry is new and fresh. There is no single name or a title for them. Companies, the media, customers, they all call online activities with different titles. One that is right for the mouth at the moment. So let's go through the main principles of these headings and consider these from a professional perspective. Streaming. This is the most used title of all. For example, a yoga or a simple exercise class or a real-time live concert broadcasted online can be one. Recently, a very common way, for example, to attend concerts when it has not been possible to visit it physically. You simply buy a ticket online and get a link that will be activated at a certain time when the concert starts. Simple. Streaming usually doesn't have its weird interactivity and maybe even the ability to chat. And in order to get even more confused, Netflix or YouTube, for example, are also streaming services, which means that the streaming material does not have to be real time. Most commonly, when it comes to network streaming and real time such, it's either captured with a single camera or a multi-camera implementation. For example, a yoga stream has different cameras to record movements from far and near. If there is more than one camera, then the broadcast from the camera is assembled in an image mixer, from which it is decided that which camera image will be streamed to the participants. If you have multiple cameras and audio sources, you may not even need a physical mixer nowadays because there are also these virtual mixers invented. And about streaming, if the event name has live streaming or live stream as a topic name, then it simply means that the broadcast is described as a live broadcast and it's not pre-recorded one. Webinars and live webinars. This is also a widely used term for streaming, for example, for teaching and educational purposes, and for a broadcast that uses the presentation as a material from a trainer or facilitator as a part of the broadcast. The webinar itself is a different matter from video conferencing, although the difference is quite volatile these days. For example, Zoom or Teams, they might be built and they probably are built for the video conferencing and meetings, but they can be used to organize high quality webinars without any problems. And maybe the biggest difference versus video conferencing is that webinars often have more outside participants with different rights than video conferencing ones. For example, in video conferencing, everyone may have the right to share their screen or presentation, but in webinars, only the trainer, presenter, organizer, or host has the right to do so. Webinars can be organized in real time as a live webinar or with pre-recorded material, and there are two options for that: automated webinar or on-demand webinar. An automated webinar can be scheduled to start at a certain time. Participants are able to ask questions and participate in questionnaires, but the trainer or the presenter may not be answering them at the same time live. Sometimes it can also be the case that participants do not know that they are attending an automated webinar and they assume it's a live webinar. It's often not advertised very much, but I think it would be still fair to tell participants that. And on-demand webinar can also be called a webinar recording. That is as well a pre-recorded webinar scheduled to be viewed on a specific link, for example, 30 days. And the on-demand webinar will also allow participants to ask questions and participate in interactive surveys, polls, or other activities. And like automated webinars, the trainer may not be the one who's responding right away. It means that he can answer later with email, for example. And about building one, building a webinar is pretty easy. You need a camera, microphone, webinar platform, and the broadcast computer are also required. But more on these later. Webcasts. Practically the same as streaming or webinar, but perhaps focusing more on broadcasting media such as video. In webcasts, participants usually don't have the opportunity to interact as well, and as a webcast title, it's a bit shaky, as I've seen it used for a traditional webinar or regular streaming also. All of the above are basically different forms of a virtual event. But usually the word virtual event means a slightly more complex production than, for example, a webinar. For example, a virtual conference could be one. Virtual events are a step ahead of streaming and webinars as they have incorporated and more interactivity and involvement and are therefore more expensive for participants. Virtual events aim to trace as much ordinary physical events as possible. Virtual events can have different spaces where you can chat with other participants with your audio or only video, or virtual events can have different rooms for different exhibitors, partners, sponsors, and there can also be many different virtual stages. For example, there can be many speakers speaking same time on a different virtual stages, and that is, participants have many different opportunities to build their own agenda for the day according to their own interests and needs. In addition, one-to-one meetings are part of the virtual event. Virtual events can be example networking events, conferences, meetings, or sales and marketing events. A hybrid event is an event form that involves both participation groups, the ones that are physically there and the ones who are online, and both have the opportunity to interact and chat or communicate among themselves. For example, educational training can be made as a hybrid event. AR and VR events. Using AR and VR as an event form can help organizers provide attendees with a more immersive and engaging experience. AR means augmented reality and VR means virtual reality. So, what is the difference between of these two? Augmented reality is more efficient as a branding and gaming tool than a virtual reality since it can be accessed by almost everyone with a smartphone. By displaying virtual graphics and characters through a phone's camera or video viewer, AR transforms the dual physical world into a colorful visual one. The user's real-life experience is simply enhanced with augmented reality. Virtual reality, however, takes these elements to the next level by creating a completely computer-generated reaction or a different environment. Using specific technology such as computers, sensors, headphones, and gloves, these immersive simulations may simulate practically any picture or place possibly for the participant. And some concrete differences are that while AR uses a real-world context, VR is entirely virtual. VR users are controlled by the system, whereas AR users can control their presence in an actual world. While VR requires a headset, AR can be accessed with only your smartphone. And while VR simply boosts a fictional reality, AR engages both the virtual and the actual world. Both forms are used in the event sector, but I would say less than other models because they are more difficult to organize to their preparation. It takes time. Podcasts. Podcasts are mostly audio episodes of a show that may be listened to from different broadcast sources like Spotify or YouTube. It's an audio series whose episodes always discuss about something. Podcasts are usually original audio recordings, but they can also be broadcasts of television or radio shows, lectures, education, performances, or other events that have been recorded previously. Online course. This is a form of digital education with a high demand, which during the time of the corona has become one of the most important distribution channel forms for information, lecture, or a course. Usually online courses have fees, but sometimes there may also be freebies, for example, free content delivered against your email address. Just like in traditional event, in a virtual event sector, it is important to define the goal, topic, and the target group of the event in the first stage, as the form of virtuality that will be used and needed depends on these. If the goal and purpose is to get the training or educational event online, there are many affordable webinar solutions, for example. However, if your plans are a little bigger and you even want to offer some kind of a wow effect to the public, you should consider other viable and budget friendly virtual forms for making the event virtual. Every event begins with a meticulously planned script and schedule. Nothing should be left out of the script, as a well written script will save you in a pinch. Nothing is different in virtual events because production is a timing game, and everything must happen according to your clock. I recommend including all event information into the script, including presenters, performers, platforms, performances, musical performances, technical equipments, and so on. And actually, there is, I don't know, maybe there is, but uh, there is maybe not the concrete one template for the script. So I would say customize it to looking like you, looking like your production, and make it like you understand it. The script can be text based or a task based, for example. And if you're using a task based, you can use Monday, for example. It's a very good platform. And a suitable backup situation should be rewritten for each shooting situation or equipment, and the script should include focus on fault situations, uh, because this gives you peace of mind that you already know what to do in any case. Also, if you as a producer become ill just before the important moment and are unable to work on the project, the script is simple to share with another producer. It's a good idea for the entire production team to read the script before the show so that everyone is on the same page and knows what is going on and what is going to happen. The timetable or an action plan is an important part of the script, as the action plan displays every second what happens in any live situation. It's a good idea to prepare a schedule for the technical producer and the host of the event as well, and you often need two different schedules for this. One with more tech based and the other one with more agenda based. And the schedule should be closely monitored during the event, as it will show which camera is on in any situation, who is the presenter on any screen, and what happens during the coffee break. According to your schedule, it is worth pulling through the virtual event at least twice in a test mode, mainly for producers, performance, and the equipment and platform assurance. Participant involvement is an important way to differentiate a good virtual event from others. And actually, that's what virtual events are made for. And that's what attendees usually expect from the virtual event, to be part of it and being involved. But how to involve people to be engaged, and what ways do we have for that? Let's see, I'll give you a few good examples. Surveys before, during, and after the event. The survey is definitely the best known way to involve the participants in the event, and what could be a better way than to involve them even before the event? What are the expectations for the event? Who do you want to see and hear? Who are the most looking forward to? Are the main questions. It is also worth pushing the customer's interests and needs into service, and that's why questions should be designed to be inspiring, not boring. It's good to know that most of the modern virtual event platforms allow you to make surveys during the event, and as I said earlier, this definitely brings the most answers as participants live in a momentum, though I mean that they live in a momentum and they are happy to answer questions that are specific to that particular performance, show, presentation, or situation at that particular moment. Surveys in the middle of an event happen to be real time and therefore receive the most responses. Post-event feedback surveys are sure to be familiar to every event organizer, as this will help to develop the future activities and at the same time provide participants with some memory moments and highlights of the event, possibly also marketing the next event. And no matter if it's before, during, or after the event, surveys should be kept short and easy to keep attendee interest along the feeling. And please don't forget the visuals. It brings always something new to the boring forms. Polls. One of the best virtual event participation ideas is to use polls. I guess I haven't been to any virtual event recently where no polls have been used. So I would say that they are very popular and for a good reason. Compared to surveys, polls are faster, more graphical, and engaging involving methods. Polls are quite simple. You can run polls in which attendees rate the sessions they attended, polls that direct conversations towards specific subjects, and in some circumstances, speakers can also conduct a brief polls during their online presentation. Depending on the platform you use, you will even get the real-time answers for everyone to see right away, and it always brings a nice buzz among the participants if they see the results right away. And as with surveys, polls can also be polls can be also used before, during, and after the event. Quizzes and contests. One thing that you should know, or you probably know, is that people love contests and quizzes. So why wouldn't they like them as part of the virtual event? Next time, try to pull it and try it. Start your killer competition up right before the event and raffle the winner during the event, and you will see for yourself how the event attendance rate is definitely above the average you have ever had. Or you can just organize a quick contest during the event, for example, in cooperation with event partners and sponsors. And if you want to be more classical, just make a traditional concept. The grand prize will be drawn after the event among all participants in the event. And this too works every time. In quizzes and contests, only your mind is the limit. And fairness, of course. Also discuss the goals of the competitions with others, such as partners or sponsors. It's very often that the best killer ideas might come from there, actually. You shouldn't invent everything by yourself. Use your network, partner, sponsor, maybe attendees. It's up to you. Offer something for free. Make a virtual giveaways from sponsors or exhibitors, for example. This is also one form that is very popular for attendees because free stuff makes people always crazy. In virtual events, different kinds of digital products or content are the best as it does not break down the cash flow of the event as badly as physical products. Even with this option, I don't tire of repeating myself. Use partners, talk with sponsors, use your network, and came up with something new, something inspiring. Maybe how about free lunch? Deliver tried to attend the store in cooperation with a food delivery partner. Uh, Actually, that has already been used for a while in some way, but free things and also free meals brings the participation threshold lower and makes participants satisfied and involved. And even if your virtual platform does not offer lucid virtual giveaway possibilities, come up with your own idea. Search for different apps, applications, and don't be afraid of trying something new. Everything new and interesting is also inspiring to participants as long as the idea works. And as you know, the word goes from mouth to mouth, and you shouldn't underestimate the power of grapevine, puskaradio in Finnish. Q&As. This always causes reactions for and against. Some people like it, some people do not. Live Q&As can be memorable, instructive, and entertaining when they are done well. They can, however, be the weakest part of your show or presentation at their worst. My advice and my opinion is that if you keep it short and moderated, it can be a very good and inspiring idea for involving participants during the event. And if I said moderated, I mean that do not let the questions go off topic because that is boring and does not bring any benefits to anyone. So, in a nutshell, if you use this, then be careful and set a certain amount of time for it. Do not use it in every presentations, only in a few. Chat. This is almost the default value in all virtual productions, whatever the format is. I believe that chat is no longer worth leaving out from the productions today, as it offers an absolutely insanely low threshold for being involved in an event. Offering emojis and thumbs, I think that's secondary. But virtual communication without any sound is what the internet is originally made for. And that's the assumption in all productions. And I say this because I have heard many times in different kind of discussions that there is no longer a need to use chat nowadays because there are other involving methods and communications options available, and many people argue that the chat is a big burden at events, especially if they need to be moderated. But I wouldn't be so radical with this. I think just try to make an event without a chatting possibility and ask for a feedback from that. After you have read the feedback, I don't think that you make the same mistake again. So keep the chat option open, whether it was moderated or not. Networking such as one-to-ones, live discussions, and roundtables. Attending virtual networking events allows participants to meet and network with inspirational business influencers, speakers, attendees, partners, while also learning about the latest trends. With virtual events, networking has been made easy and hassle-free with only few clicks. Mostly because networking in virtual events are moving towards an even more profiled model. So, beside just registering, participants are asked for more information about their interests, their own skills, future perspectives, and work tasks, in addition to regular registration information. And these profiles and interests and all the additional information is needed for better search and connect for networking. Networking in events definitely offers fresh ideas and new perspectives for everyone, and it's a good it's a good way of involving participants with others. And there are a few ways to get people networking in virtual events, and the most used ones are one-to-one meetings, live discussions such as panels and roundtable talks, workshops. Usually, networking in events is built around these three. And if the event platform does not offer these, there are a lot of applications and options for these today on internet. As a hint, Umbrella may be the secure choice, but you should check out the others as well, depending on your needs and your budget. Push notifications. As a smartphone owner, you may have noticed that these are a great way to get customer attention, and this has been rising in virtual events as well. It's a great, fast, and a smart way to communicate to a participant about, for example, a new one-to-one contact, a presentation that is about to begin, a panel discussions, polls, journeys, or whatever. But keep in mind that less is better, because excessive communication is often perceived as a disruptive, even if you mean good and want to be informative. However, with notifications, you will be able to maintain interests, share important information, but most important of all, you are present to participants, or at least you try to be until they turn off the notifications, of course. And that option you should always have. Recording and replays. Like I mentioned earlier, recording gives a significant benefit to the participants and for the event organizer. Beside that, providing a recording, you get the participants a feeling that during this event, nothing is left unheard or seen, and even if it's left, the recording is able to be viewed afterwards. This is a big deal that often influences my buying decisions. For example, that is what I have left in my hand after the event. A great benefit from every angle, I would say. From a good and a high quality recording, I have often looked a few parts later that were left considering in my head, or due my schedule that I haven't had any time to hear all the performances. One big advantage of recordings is also that you can cut afterwards event highlights from the recording for marketing and advertising purposes, for example. If you have not any recording, then you simply can't make, and you do not have any video materials from the event. So you can't make any marketing for the future. So offering a replay is a great benefit from every angle. If you have any chance, always record the event, but ask permission from the presenters before, because that's important so that you do not get into troubles later. Social media hype. This format is the most modern and perhaps even the most challenging, as hype is not easy to create, but it's worth to try, as people usually share and comment on interesting content, and especially if it's about an event they're attending. So, here are my few tips for trying to hype the event in social media. One great way to get people involved in your virtual event is to create a hashtag for it before the event. Then you'll be able to monitor how guests are interacting with your hashtag and event this way. And the good thing with the hashtag is that those will live forever. So you'll be able to check the results whenever you want. And hashtag also works as a silent marketing as well after the event. Create private groups on Facebook or LinkedIn and invite participants. This way, you will be able to make your brand, your idea, your whole event more familiar for them. It's a really great way to tell about the event, partners, agenda, and get direct feedback from the real participants. And make networking rounds on Facebook or LinkedIn. As soon as your event starts, make a post and direct your participants there to connect and network with each other. After all, a quality virtual event, quality content, and a topical agenda is why attendees primarily attend to events. Involving and engaging is a bonus, I would say, and it's good to focus on them, but you should still not forget the main principles, goals, and the idea of your event. First, start planning a killer idea for the event agenda, get speakers and partners, sponsors, and then focus on the engagement and involving ways that can convince your customers to make a purchase decision for your event, not your competitor ones.